I'm Dane Rose. Hello, successful Filipinas. And in part 2 of 100 skills for successful Filipinas, let's look at 4 new skills. So the first is creating a routine. What is a routine? It's a rhythm. It's something you do every day, something you do every week. It's creating a daily routine that takes you where you want to go. Now, where do you want to go? Well, you have your definition of success. You have being happy. You have sustainable well-being. Everyone wants to feel sustainably better. And so the routine is the thing that takes you a little bit further, a little bit closer to where you want to go every day. Now, when you're creating a routine and making sure that you do important things, it's useful to have a checklist. Here's mine. And what I do is before going to bed, I look at this and take my pen and I look at what I've done today. So for example, today, went for a walk, took a bath, responded to my work communication. I own the company, so I get certain emails, videos I have to respond. My morning meditation. Why that? Well, if I do the morning meditation, I'm 3 times happier and my day goes better. So it's an important thing to do. Writing a positive future. The brain leans towards negativity. And so if you don't do anything and there's stress in life, you imagine, oh, what if my boyfriend cheats on me? Or what if I don't have enough money at the end of the month? You imagine negative futures. This is automatic. But what isn't automatic is imagining positive futures. What if I developed an amazing routine and a year from now I was 50% happier? That's a positive future, but you can write it down like I do this, I do this, I do this, and this starts to happen in my life. So every day I write one positive future. I take steps towards one of my goals. Did that. I spend time bonding with my lover. Did I grow my relationships today? I do some physical exercise, not just walking, but some aerobic activity. I take my vitamins and do an evening meditation, right? So I check it off. If something's missing, I go do it immediately. And many times, the most important things that really change the future are missing. And so if we don't do them, then our life goes down. But we don't see it. It happens slowly over time. And so this is a prompt. So what's your routine? If you have a routine and commit to it, these can be things that you do to break your addictions. You know, it's easy to scroll through TikTok. You don't need to write that down. But maybe you want to study a useful subject for an hour. Maybe you want to read a book for an hour a day so that you learn something new. So that's the first skill. And having a good routine has increased my productivity by about 300%. So my outer life, my success is about 300% better than if I didn't have a routine, right? So what does that mean? It means that my business makes 3 times more money than if I didn't have a structure, right? It means that I accomplish 3 times more of my goals, right? It means that I'm 3 times happier, right? So It's a very powerful skill, and it's absolutely free, right? One piece of paper a week, I check it off, and it leads me to do things. It leads me to do things that improve my life. So, congratulations. If you want to take a pause now and write down your routine, one of the things you can do is put it in your calendar, in your phone, and repeat. I do this daily. And every day you can have an alert go off. Do this, do this, do this, and you can check that it's done. And no more forgetfulness. The next skill is very different. And it's the skill of finding compatible people in your life, compatible partners, lovers, friends. Now, what does compatible mean? Well, I have values, right? And you have values. Now, everyone values the same thing, but in a different sequence. And what I mean by that is I value honesty, and it's really high up here. Now, maybe you value honesty as well, and for you, it's over here, right? Some people value honesty, and it's the first priority. Other people value, for example, pleasure, and that's the first priority, right? So the top one is pleasure. Right? If it feels good, I'm going to do it, even if it's dishonest. Now, you can see this in relationships, because let's say you borrow some money from a friend, and you say, I'll pay it back next week. Well, the honest thing is to work really hard and save the money and pay it back next week. Right? And if it doesn't work this way, then you get it in. Maybe you even borrow some money from somebody else because your plan didn't work out, but you pay back when you said you would. So that's the honest thing to do. But the pleasurable thing to do is to buy some load, right? And watch some videos. So you pick pleasure ahead of honesty. So if one person picks pleasure as the first priority, and the other person picks honesty as the first priority, both people value honesty, both people value pleasure, but one person values pleasure more than honesty, and the other person values honesty more than pleasure. So the one person is willing to suffer a bit in order to be honest. The other person is not willing to suffer a bit. No, I don't have the money. I'll get it next week. And then they'll keep playing, video games and stuff like that to feel the pleasure. So a compatible person is someone like you. If they value pleasure more than honesty and you value pleasure more than honesty, then you're both aligned. You both will do what gives you pleasure, right? Now, one person may think about the short term and other people may think about the long term. Now, if every time there's a chance to buy a gadget, you go buy it, but your partner wants to save up to buy a house, and that'll require 10 years of savings. You have to invest in your piggy big fund and do this, but the other one just, I want some new shoes and this. You're not compatible because the person puts the money towards the house and the other one takes the money and spends it on new shoes and new gadgets. So you're going to be frustrated, right? Either the one is going to be frustrated, why can't I buy my thing? Or the other one's going to be frustrated, we're never making progress on a big thing, right? So compatibility is finding someone that is like you, that thinks long-term if you're a long-term thinker rather than short-term, that thinks honest rather than always put pleasure first, if that's you, or that is like you, that will spend the money on pleasure and gadgets and doesn't care about the long-term future. Now, when you have a relationship breakup, the most common reason is one person's value is like this and the other one is like this. So one makes a decision to go this way and the other goes this way. So you separate as you each pursue your values. Now, the thing to understand is that if someone values drinking and gambling to avoid their problems, they don't want to think, so they want to drink and they want to gamble. That's their freedom to do. They can drink, they can gamble. It's not a very happy life a lot of the time. But your job is not to stop them and say, I love you, stop drinking and gambling, do it my way. No. Your job is to understand and see someone. You would like to go drinking and gambling. Okay, I'd like to support you. Off you go. Go drink and gamble with your own money and your own things. But if that's a man who you rely on to take care of your children, it means there's a problem here, right? Because now you have no money, so you're going to try and change them. But it's very difficult to change someone. What's easier is to get to know someone. You can spend time getting to know someone. You can look. What did you do in your last relationship? You can perhaps talk with the girlfriend before. You can look at a boss. You can talk to the other employees. Does this boss treat you fairly? Does he pay you well? Does he pay you on time? Does he cheat your wages? Is he fair? Right? If so, then pick that boss. If not, your job is to try and find another one or start your own company, right? Or do different types of work or lower your expenses. So one of the things that I find interesting, and this is why this skill I think is very important, is having talked with hundreds of Filipinas, not a single Filipina asks good questions to me to understand my values. Now, here's how bad it is from my experience. My values are in my books, so I'll share my books, but a Filipina doesn't want to read. That would take time, that would take energy, so she doesn't read the book, so she doesn't know what I value. Now, she could say, Dane, tell me what you value. Do you value long-term thinking or short-term thinking? Do you value high sexuality or do you value hard work? Do you value my independence or do you want me to be dependent on you? What do you value? And she could listen and I would tell her, and then she could say, we have different values. So thank you for telling me, and she could find someone similar. Or she could say, I like those values, and make a good decision to connect with me. But no one asks. And because no one asks, no one understands. And so what happens then is curiosity or physical lust, right? Or fantasy, projection, imagination says, I want to be with that guy, and there's a fantasy, an imagination. But there's no fact, there's no reality to it. So you get together, you form a relationship, but then later you learn, you want this and I want this, right? So if you can develop the skill of choosing people who are similar to your values, then you will succeed in having compatible, harmonious relationships rather than conflicts, breakup, and disappointments and heartbreak. So it's an incredibly useful skill. For example, I like hardworking, independent women. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, I want a woman to put half of the energy into our relationship. I want her to talk as well as listen. I want her to read. I want her to write. I want her to make an effort, right, to grow the relationship and grow her own life. And so I know that most Filipinas are not very interested in that. I know that many women around the world are not very interested in that. But it's my job to find a small percentage of women, maybe 5 women in 100, that want the same things that I want. So I have to filter for that. I don't look at who has the biggest breasts. I don't look at who's the most cute. Right? That's nice, but it's not the highest value, right? I look at effort is one of the things that I look at the most. So I have to look, for example, did a woman read my profile? If she didn't, obviously she's a bit lazy, right? Hey, I want to get to know you, but I can't bother to read your profile. It's a bit lazy. The letter just says, hello. Or does the letter say, hey, I looked at your profile here. This is interesting. This is here. Oh, they read the letter and they're writing. Or if I ask a question and say, what do you think about this? And they answer the question with a thought, it means they're thoughtful and hardworking. But if they ignore the question, right, it means they're not hardworking, they're not a good communicator, right? So I have to look at the first interactions, and it's my job to find people who are compatible with me. One of the things that I sometimes do is I'll send this channel because it takes time to watch this channel. It takes time to think about this channel. It's not as interesting as a TikTok addiction, but it's useful, it's intelligent, right? So if somebody watches these videos and writes something intelligent, I think, ooh, hardworking, intelligent, good communicator. I'm interested in that person, right? If I send the channel and some cute 25-year-old writes back and they couldn't bother to open the channel, I think, a bit lazy, a bit dumb, right? I don't want a dumb person. I want someone who wants to get to know their partner. I want someone who will be patient and take time. Why? Because that leads to greater success in the relationship and in life. And I want to spend time with successful people in relationships and in life, right? And so if you will learn this way of analyzing people, right, you will pick more compatible partners. If 2 hardworking, successful people both put in 50% of the effort, the relationship and your life will go up. If one person is lazy and does stupid things and the other works hard to overcome it, you will both go down, right? You'll make the money, he'll spend it gambling, right? You'll do something, he'll crash the car, right? You can't pull someone up if they want to go down. I can't pull a woman up if she wants to go down. So I look for people that want to go up equally and together. Now, this brings up an important part about family. Family, these are the people that you were born with. Your father, your mother, your sisters, your relatives. Now, if your mother and father are hardworking, if they are successful, if they are competent, well-educated, if they are healthy, if they are kind, if they support you in becoming the person you want to be, congratulations. You are part of a small number of people who are very fortunate, right? Very lucky. But what if your mother is an addict? What if you get beaten? What if your father is a drunk? What if your brother, right, tries to sell you as a prostitute? Right? What if the TV is going constantly in your house and you can't think and you can't meditate? What if every time you have hopes and dreams, your uncle tells you you're stupid? And your whole family is poor and pulls you down. Every time you have an opportunity, they pull you down. You go and make some money, they want the money, give us the money, and then they spend it on alcohol and drugs or, right? In my time in the Philippines, I have seen horrific family abuse, right? The daughter has an opportunity, everyone criticizes her and is jealous. That's a sick family. The daughter goes abroad and becomes an OFW. Everyone says you should send the money to me, so she can't save up any money, right? And she comes down again. The brother gets an education, the daughter is left at home. Why is the daughter not as valuable as the brother? If you have a sick family that pulls you down, that does not help you go up, you will not go up unless you cut boundaries between you and your family. Now, what's a boundary? A boundary is I'm not going to get fired from my job because my mom wants to talk to me and complain. I'm at work. I'm not going to talk to you right now. It means that if you're saving up for your own education and your dad wants money for alcohol, you say, no. You're supposed to provide education for me. It's not my job to feed your addiction. No, right? If you have a sick family, a sick boyfriend, a sick mother, a sick father, a sick brother, who's always pulling you down and never helping you to go up, you will fail unless you define boundaries. So, for example, my parents wanted to pull me down along with my siblings. And so I understood that in order to start a successful business, I had to move out of the house. So I left my parents' house at age 17 with 2,000 pesos, $40. And I moved into a friend's house because it was quiet there and I could start the business and it was stable there. So I left my house so I could succeed in business. Now, because my parents were trying to pull me down, I cut communication. I said, I need my full attention on my goals, right? Now, if I had had very supportive parents that were investing in my company or were teaching me things, that would be wonderful. But my parents made me depressed. My parents left me considering whether or not to take my own life at age 17. At age 14. Right? My parents were always fighting. My parents were pulling my siblings down. right? Now, I was not strong enough at age 17, at age 14 to fight back. But it was my job to leave a destructive family behind, to move out of the house and to grow up. And so, this is an incredibly important skill to learn. Now, it is easier to learn this skill in America because in America, the family is not sacred in the way it is in the Philippines, right? In America, what's sacred is personal freedom. So you don't want to spend time with your abusive parents? Okay, you go do this somewhere else. Now, in the Philippines, it's better and it's worse, like many things. So in the Philippines, people will often, stay with their parents, beyond the age of 18. So I left at 17. Many Filipinos will live with their parents, 20, 30, 40, 50. In the US, the parents pay for the children's education, but the parents are also responsible to make their own retirement and have their own money. In the Philippines, the children are told, you should provide for your parents. Now, what I would say is that it's a more complicated thing in the Philippines to set boundaries with family, right? But you need to find your own way of having enough protection for your own success that you have a chance to grow up. And a good way of looking at this is like a little seedling, right? If you plant a seed, like a sunflower seed, after about a week, it'll have, 2 leaves. And if anyone steps on it or eats it at that moment, it's finished. It's just gone. But let's say you protect the sunflower seed and throughout the summer, it grows up and produces sunflowers with hundreds of sunflower seeds. Now you've created wealth. One sunflower seed is now hundreds of sunflower seeds. Now you can harvest, right, the sunflower, and you can plant new seeds. So the purpose of a boundary, right, is to protect the seed when it's vulnerable and just has a couple of shoots. Why? Because if you grow a little money, I was talking with a Filipina the other day. Her father was an alcoholic. So she grew a clothing business. It became successful. She was paying for her own schooling. Why? Because she was paying for her own schooling with her own money from her clothing business. And it was growing, right? But her father came and took all the clothes and sold them for alcohol, and her business was destroyed. Now, why is this sick? Why is this profoundly cruel and stupid? Because if you kill the sunflower seed when it just has a few sprouts, there's no time for it to give back wealth. But if you let it grow and become a healthy sunflower seed, then you can take half of the sunflower seed and plant it, and now you have new sunflowers in many more places. And then you can eat hundreds of sunflower seeds here, right? So if her father did not steal all of the clothes, but just a little bit and said, I have my alcoholism, can I have a little bit for alcohol? And just took one or two once and let the business grow, then there's more money to support her mother and the family later, right? But if you kill the sunflower seed before it has a chance to grow, then everyone loses. There's no wealth, right? So you must put a boundary when things are young, when you're growing your education, when you're having a new idea, when you're starting a new business, when you're developing, let's say you meet a really good, healthy boyfriend that needs attention. The relationship needs energy. But your mom wants you to do the laundry and your father wants you to do this and doesn't care about your future. You need to put a boundary around that so that you can move forwards. So that is critical, or you fail. You stay down at the family level. Now, once you get up above the family level and you grow strong, you become a role model for your siblings who can copy you, who can learn from you. Right? Once you go up and are strong, you become a role model. Now you are giving something much more valuable than money to your family. You're giving them an example of your success. So this is a very, very important thing to give to your family. And it's hard to say no to your older brother, to your mother and father. It's hard to say no. But if you do not say no to a sick family, you will never be able to rise up. And if you don't rise up, you will never be able to be an example to your younger siblings and your children. And if you are not an example of how to do it better, how to do it differently, how to be successful, then the whole family stays down. Right? So the more tough you are with your boundaries when something is early, when something is beginning, the more generous you can be later when you succeed. Now, this takes us into the final level, but we'll deal with that in part 3. It's a big subject, so in part 3, we'll deal with the next skill of a successful Filipina.